Derby County youngster Ryan Bartley has moved to Gateshead on a permanent transfer until the end of this season. He follows the likes of Dajaune Brown, Owen Oseni and Ben Radcliffe to the club in the National League. They currently sit 4th in that 5th tier and are in a fairly decent spot with potential promotion on the cards for them. Now, Derby County obviously find themselves with a wide range of injury problems within the first team, and Ryan Bartley is one of those players within that academy setup who could have maybe made that step up to the first team and sort of been an extra body for them, but obviously that is not going to happen anymore. He's 21 years old and has been in the National League already at times this season. He made 7 appearances with Spennymoor Town, as well as a move to Hereford where he played 16 times and at one point was named Player of the Month for October. Bartley joined the Rams back in 2023 after leaving Crystal Palace. He featured 12 times for Jake Buxton's under-21s during the 23-24 season, with his performances earning him a Premier League 2 Player of the Month award in December of 2023. Over the course of this season, he's made 4 appearances for the under-21s. That's in between the range of loan spells that he has. Now, obviously, I wish him all the best. I hope he goes on to great things. And obviously, it's another defender leaving Derby County. Just a few months ago, really. It was sort of the back end of December where it was reported that Derby County were letting go of Ben Radcliffe to go to Crawley Town, I think he went to in the end, in League One. And that's 2 defenders now from Derby County's academy setup who have now moved on. And obviously, as the saying goes, it's next man up for the under-21s and even for the under-18s, as someone is bound to step up. Now, obviously, Ryan Bartley is at that time of his career, 21 years old, where he sort of really needed to be sort of making that step up into first team football, whether it be with Derby County or whether it be elsewhere. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Ryan Bartley was going to be the next Erin Cashin or the next Richard Keogh or some next Sergio Ramos type regen of some description, but it's obviously a difficult situation for Derby when we've got so many injury problems and 2 arguably highly rated defenders within the academy setup have now been moved on in Ben Radcliffe and obviously now Ryan Bartley. Obviously Max Bardell's out on loan as well. So it's one of those for me where you've got some really difficult discussions to be had with obviously Derby County, with obviously the Derby County coaching staff and things like that. Now obviously this deal won't have been made if Ryan Bartley was teetering on the edge of the first team and sort of ready to go, and that's something which has to be made clear. But how much involvement did John Eustace have in this decision, and how much did he actually see Bartley before this move was obviously made? Obviously, it was announced on the 25th, which was 2 days ago when you're reading this, when you're watching this, sorry. So he's only been here a couple of weeks. Has he had a proper opportunity to assess those under-21s, or has this been a sort of a Jake Buxton type decision where they've gone and said, right, Bucko, what do you think about Ryan Bartley? We've got an offer from Gateshead, we've got an offer from this team, that team, whatever. Do you think he's good enough to make it in the first team? What are your thoughts? And then it will have obviously gone through analysts and scouts and things like that. And obviously the decision was made that he isn't going to be good enough to make that step up for us at this current moment in time. And for the betterment of his career, he's made that move to the National League. Now, I know Derby County are in a bit of shit with injuries, and we have to keep discussing the injuries because that's the major problem that Derby County have. And in that centre-back position, at the moment, our only fit senior centre-half is Sandre Langas. Now, obviously, later on today, when John Eustace does his interview, we may hear that Nat Phillips is back fit. We may hear that Matt Clark is okay as well, which would then obviously give us 3 centre-backs to choose from. But it's obviously one of those sort of situations where at some point, Derby County are going to have to dip into the academy over the course of the next 12 games. And whether that be for a player like Jake Rooney, who's already made his first team debut, Darren Robinson as well, another player in that academy setup who's made his debut just a few years ago now, wasn't it? It was back under Wayne Rooney, if I remember rightly. And at some point, we've got to sort of dip into those players and sort of go, well, can they cut the mustard at this level? Are we even going to give them the opportunity to try and cut the mustard? Because you go back to when the 3 that's come to mind straight away is Erin Cashin, Festi Ebiseli and Liam Thompson. Liam Thompson was thrown in right at the deep end. I think it was against Bournemouth. And then he got man of the match in his first 2 senior starts. Unbelievable player, by the way. Erin Cashin chucked in at the deep end versus Peterborough. I think it was at the end of January, mid-January. Obviously, Derby County in that 21-point deduction season. And if we go back, even Festi Ebiseli was given opportunities as well, but if we go back to their sort of academy period, Liam Thompson, Erin Cashin and Festi Ebiseli were all part of sort of like a trio that every year were never sort of guaranteed an opportunity, were never guaranteed sort of their scholar, was never guaranteed a pro deal. And we even nearly lost Erin Cashin and Festi Ebiseli the summer before we went in. It was either the summer before or the summer that we went into administration because of not being able to sign new contracts and things like that. And obviously certain people in the academy not wanting to keep them. And that's a big discussion that has to be had because I don't know how many of these decision makers are the same from that season to now when it comes to the academy setup. Now, I know there's some really good people in the academy, some really good coaches, some really good analysts, and like you can't fault them, in my opinion. I've worked with them. I've worked on some of the academy lads myself with analysis and player performance programs and things like that for their upcoming season. Back in that, was it 22-23 when I was at Derby, and it's one of those for me where it's a very, very interesting topic of discussion which has to be had about those players that were potentially almost lost for Derby County back then. And that's a problem that has been had many times, and it's something which we need to be able to be smart on. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to getting rid of Ryan Bartley. I think if he was going to be within the first team, he would have made that step up now. You look at Jake Rooney, sort of made that step up at 18, 19. Cruz Allen is in and around it now. You look at Dan Cox has been in and around it a couple of times. Lennon Wilden's been in and around it. And Freddie Turley as well, another, I think he's 20 years old, has been in and around it a couple of times this season. Whether he gets more opportunities, I can't exactly tell you. But it's one of those where you've got to look at those players that are in the academy to potentially make that step up next season and things like that. And will Derby County make academy products great? Will they give them the opportunity to sort of push on in the championship and potentially make themselves first team options for obviously next season, whether that be in League One or in the championship? And these are some massive questions which have to be asked of Derby County and obviously the academy staff, the first team staff and things like that. And I know that Derby County often do sort of 21s and first team sessions as well as 18s and things like that to sort of mix up the groups and sort of see if any can cut the mustard. But sometimes I think it's difficult when you chuck, say, if you like split the teams and you go 2 under 18s, 2 21s, 2 first team as like a 6-a-side outfield thing, then you sort of don't have the problems of them fitting in with the first team. It's sort of making sure the 18s can step up as well and things like that. So it would be interesting to sort of see how that process sort of goes and what sort of academy grads could potentially be playing with the first team over the course of the next few months. Now, obviously, a big discussion about Ryan Bartley today and his move away. Is it a good one for the club? I imagine it won't be a bad one. I imagine there's probably a sell-on clause in there. And I imagine we got a little bit of cash for him. And I hope he goes on to great things and finds his way back into the Football League. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on that notification bell. Hit the like button as well. And I'll catch you in my next video.